80% of the time you're being told you're not funny. And that's how you get to the fun. By the wife or by the audience. So yeah, I tell you what, I still, if I had the chance, I'd buy a hero poke, like over a motorcycle, over anything. It's like I can touch wood. I can afford a decent motorcycle. I can afford etc. etc. That damn hero poke is still the best bloody thing I've ever driven here. I don't know why.
Don't say pollution.
Pollution, yeah, pollution does offend me. My parents live in Noida. You know what I mean? So I'm legitimately worried about them. The safety of our animals. I'm worried about that. There is a reason that every Shah Rukh Khan story is the same Shah Rukh Khan story.
Tell me about the movie that you're working on.
Oh, it's called Happy Patel Khatarnak Jasoos.
Hello, this is Rama Lakshmi, and welcome to the Prince Page Turner. I've just finished reading a new book, and it's called The Outsider, a memoir for the misfits. And it's by Veer Das, stand-up comedian and writer Veer Das. And it has a very original first line. It says, "I'm not sure why you should be reading this book." And only a self-deprecating comic can write such a first line to a book. And then he goes on to say he doesn't have the answers, he has only questions. And you would wonder why, as a reader, you want to read an author who has only questions to offer you, because you want to go to a book to engage with the questions you're grappling with. But that's Veer Das. Welcome, Veer, to the print, and
Hi,
congratulations on this really funny and very relatable book.
thank you.
And as I messaged you late one night saying I can't stop laughing, there were some parts of it where I was like, oh gosh, where is this book going?
Yeah.
Let me begin by asking you, in 2025, are there lines you would not dare cross?
Um. If there are, I don't know what they are. I think you know what they are as the audience. You know what I mean? The thing is, comedian's job is to walk up to the line, and the audience's job is to move the line. The I think we can all think of jokes that we used to do 12 years ago, 15 years ago that we don't do today, for instance. You know what I mean? We've evolved beyond that kind of comedy, and the audience moved the line, and comedians kind of followed suit. But wherever the line is, that's where I'll meet you. You know what I mean? As the audience. So I can't say where it's going to be. All I can do is kind of operate like with my own moral compass, and write what I can, and then really imbibe in terms of feedback. But I don't pre-think what I can and cannot cross.
So draw the line, or you look for where the audience has drawn the line?
I think I'll do my set, and the audiences will let me know if I'm on the line or if I'm not on the line. You
Mm,
know, but I'm certainly open to that engagement.
mm.
It's not that I've done my set and then moved on,
So
kind
is
of a
Veer
thing.
less Veer in 2025 than 12 years ago or 15 years ago?
No, I don't think so. I think you'd have to come to a show and you would decide that. But I'm certainly not um, pre-thinking about anything. I'm just kind of writing what I think is truthful.
Mhm. What is the goal of comedy? You think is the end goal just laughter, or of your comedy, is the end goal just laughter?
Um, I don't know. Comedians, we get asked about goals sometimes. But I feel like if we were very goal-oriented people, we wouldn't be comics. You know what I mean? We're not exactly planners. And so for me, I wake up in the morning with like ideas in my head and I put them on a page, and that's really it. There's no uh, outcome. There's just intention, right? But I'm not thinking of outcome. The best case scenario, I think, for a comedian is if something happened in the world or in your life or in my life, and 10 days later, after you're done watching my comedy show, you're reminded of that or you re-encounter that, and now you have a little bit of a smile on your face because of something stupid that I said, 10 days later, and the mental map now takes you to this strange new stupid place in your mind. Best case scenario. That's the highest achievement for a comic, is 10 days later, small smile. That's it.
Is there anything like apolitical comedy?
Yeah, sure. There is. I think it's usually younger Do you know what I mean? So I think in your 20s, you are an apolitical comedian, for instance. But I think in your 20s, you just kind of try and write about shit you think people want to hear. Do you know what I mean? So it's very, and I think comedy should meander between things you want to say and things you think people want to hear in a
Hmm.
perfect ratio, right? So I think it's early comedy is apolitical, but I think any art, once you get into your 30s and 40s, will start reflecting your views on the world. You know,
And is that when it gets riskier?
I don't know if it gets riskier then. I don't know when it gets risky, and I think I don't think you can. The one thing I've learned rather humblingly is whatever you think is going to be the problem
Mm.
ain't never going to be the problem. And it's the thing you last thought, at least thought it was going to be the problem. That's the problem. So anytime I've ever written a line and thought, yo, this is going to get either a laugh or this is going to get me into trouble, that's never done either one of those things. And then I go up on stage with the material, and I think the thing that I never thought was going to get the laugh, that gets the laugh. And then I have to write more in that area. And it's similarly with the trouble.
So it makes the risk assessment process very difficult then.
I mean, if you're willing to go through a risk assessment process, unless you're just kind of telling jokes, in which case, I think if you're already thinking of a risk assessment process before telling jokes, you shouldn't be telling jokes. Just kind of, have a more stable profession.
Have you ever had someone close to you tell you you're not funny?
Oh yeah, for sure. All the time, I'll run jokes by my wife Shivani, and she'll say, and also I think the, the process of writing stand up. This might be slightly boring, but you write in the morning, and I'll write 10 pages, and then I'll roam around with like a hairbrush or a can of deodorant or something like that, and walk around the house. 10 pages becomes 2 pages, and then you go to the comedy club with 2 pages that night. And you'll bomb. It'll die. So a lot of times on a Tuesday night at the Habitat, you'll find A-list comedians who have come to bomb. We've come to flop. You know. So for the audience, the experience is weird. You sat there, you watch like young comics kill because they've got their best 20 minutes. And then you'll watch me, or you'll watch a slightly larger comic come and just flop for 15 minutes because we've got a paper in our hand. And so at that moment, the audience is telling you you're not funny. And then out of that 2 minutes, 2 pages that you have, three things will work. And those three things become 40 seconds of comedy. And you do that 100 times. And
Again, again, and again.
that becomes a stand-up comedy routine. So it's a pretty brutal, writing process. But 80% of the time, you're being told you're not funny. And that's how you get to the fun, you
By
know,
the wife or by the audience?
by the wife or by the audience. So yeah, or by other comics as well. Comics are lovely and brutal with each other, saying, go somewhere else with it.
So there's a chapter where you basically just completely unburdened and you laid bare about what happened to you after the Two Indias set.
Yeah, yeah.
Hugely controversial. Shouldn't have been, but it was, that you
Hmm.
performed at Kennedy Center.
Yeah.
Uh, what was most interesting to me was in all your reflection, post controversy reflection, you zero in on one word and you said, that's the word. If I had used that word called also,
Hmm.
the outcome could have been or would have been very different. I mean, were you just being facetious, or do you really think adding the word also to the Two India set would have made the difference between you being called a patriot or a terrorist?
I think it would be ungracious of me to assume. I agree with you that it shouldn't have been a controversy, and I agree with you that it's something that many people have said before. It's currently said almost every second day on Twitter. It's been said by news anchors, same news anchors who called me anti-national, have said the same thing. 5 months later. Um, but I do think it would be ungracious to not critique my own material and say, here's where I think it should have been better. You know what I mean? So if you think about that speech, and look, it's been discussed a lot. It's new material that I wrote on in that afternoon, so it's imperfect material, and it's one of many videos that you'll find on my YouTube channel that are kind of in a similar vein as well. Now, why that one popped? Your best bet is to kind of say, I don't know, but were I given more time with it, here's what I would have fixed in it, because you otherwise, how do you get better as an artist? So that's my reflection on it. It's very easy to come out of it arrogant, saying, no, not at all. None of it is worth reflecting on. But I don't quite personally think you grow that way.
It's interesting you talk about arrogance. The other thing that really surprised me in that chapter is you say that you kind of try to understand the hurt people were feeling at that time, that the pain that they may have uh, uh,
Yeah,
gone through. And in fact, there's a line that says, I can just make it all go away by just apologizing. You know, you actually
yeah.
give it a thought, you consider it, you think out loud. How very Gandhian of you. You try to understand the pain in your tormentor.
Well, I mean, look, Gandhian are very large words. I wouldn't use them, but uh, I don't demonize the offended. That's very easy. At the end of the day, offense is just an emotion that you are perfectly entitled to feel, and I respect your choice to feel it. What you do with that is a different choice. You know what I mean? Um, if you start making phone calls and punish someone with process, that's different than taking offense. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, you should be offended by pollution. You should be offended by many other things. As you are perfectly entitled to feel offended by a joke, and you should feel entitled to express that to the artist as well, that you were offended by his jokes. I don't demonize people taking offense at all. I think that's immature. I understand why you would be offended by a joke. You know, now where we go from there is you can give me feedback and I can take feedback, or I can not take feedback, and that's the artist audience journey. But to say I don't give a shit how you feel about my jokes, I think that's pretty arrogant for someone who's um, made their back on the audience and their feedback. You know,
It would have been very easy to call them all trolls and hateful bigots or anything, but you tried to see them as well-meaning Indians who were proud of being Indians, and they got hurt. So it takes a lot
yeah, but
of.
I don't believe in like these labels and ideological silos. If you come to my show, if you come to Ahmedabad today, tomorrow, there's left wingers, there's right wingers, there's everybody, and we can all have at each other. And I'm a liberal, but there are right wingers at my show. And I think the beauty of my profession is we can fundamentally disagree about something and laugh about it under the same roof. You're all welcome. Um, I think demonizing or labeling somebody else is the easy choice. And then if I do that, I have no right to feel bad when you label me. And I've taken the freedom to talk about everything. Now, how can I not grant you the same freedom as an audience member?
And what offends you?
Um,
Don't say pollution.
pollution, yeah, pollution does offend me. My parents live in Noida, you know what I mean? So I'm legitimately worried about, them, the safety of our animals. I'm worried about that. Many things offend me, and they'll find their way into my art occasionally. You know,
And did Kennedy Center episode change you? Is there a Veer Das before Kennedy Center and a Veer Das after Kennedy Center?
I mean, there's a Veerdas before this cup of tea and then after this cup of tea also. Yeah? You know what I mean? So everything has changed me. I don't think that's a question. I hope it does. I certainly hope it did. It'd be really weird if I went through that whole thing and came out same dude. You know what I mean? And not having grown or this thing. I wrote a special about it. I wrote an entire Netflix special about it. I dug deep, and that special went on to do some wonderful things. Yeah, of course. It made me realize what it means to be a comedian. It's uh, I'll be honest with you, it's decidedly weird to be doing interviews now because I don't normally do them. I'm pretty media shy as such. And the one thing I learned from the Kennedy Center is the first thing you say has to be jokes. So if you'll notice, in that 7 month period of time, I didn't do a single interview. And that was if you like to do interviews, that was the moment to do it because every single outlet in the world was reaching out at that moment in time, and there is the American equivalent of crying on Oprah. Do you know what I mean? Where you, acha, controversy ho gaya, now go and do the press. Go out and, really just Harry and Meghan, Oprah, damage control tour. You can do very, very easily in that moment. I shut up and I wrote jokes here. You know,
What you say in that chapter, I think it should be taught in business schools, MBA schools. You said, you want to hear me speak? Come pay for it.
yeah, for
And you
sure,
actually
for
did
sure.
that. And all your shows were. So you kept silent until your shows, and then people came to listen to you. That's like a
Yeah, I
and
mean, but we were also honest about it. Like I remember when we put the tour promo out, which is 4 or 5 months after the whole thing. And keep in mind, let's be honest, this is a 2 week situation at max, and everybody's moved on after 10 days, and on to the next guy at the front of the line. You know what I mean? It's not so massive in retrospect. It's just 10 days out of the audience's life, if you think about it, right? We put out a promo, and in the promo, like you take a press blurb and you say blah 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 blah, good guy, etc. I took every negative blurb as well and put it equally large in the promo and said now on tour. So very much maintained the duality and said if you call me a terrorist or if you call me brilliant, both of your blurbs are going up with your outlet ka naam, and hopefully I'll sell some tickets off for both of you.
yeah, it was brilliant. Um, are you still a Noida boy at heart?
Yeah, I'm. I tell you, I still, if I had the chance, I'd buy a Hero Poke like over a motorcycle, over anything. It's like I can touch wood. I can afford a decent motorcycle. I can afford etc. etc. That damn Hero Poke is still the best bloody thing I've ever driven here. I don't know why. And I only drove it 1 kilometer from from sector 15 to sector 28. So
So there's this chapter where you go from, you start with being a Noida boy and you talk about going to USIS on Kasturba Gandhi Marg
yeah,
day, and then you're talking to this woman, the librarian, and so that, and then you go to Vaishno Devi, and then you land up in Illinois cornfields.
yeah,
I mean, I'm laughing at that, and I'm saying, okay, this is the quintessential Indian dream, right? To go to America, and then this
yeah,
America that we've all learned about. Of course, you wanted to go to America because you were chasing a girlfriend who went ahead of you.
yeah,
Everybody wants to go to the US, and then they land up in the Midwest.
yeah, yeah.
That's like Noida of America. That's not even Noida. That's Mirzapur.
No, no, no. Noida is there are weddings in Noida that are more populated than Galesburg, Illinois. You know what I mean? So it's nowhere even close. But
It's
my
Mirzapur.
God, it's very bizarre. It's very bizarre. But college in America cost $28,000 then. You know, and they gave me 25 here. Imagine. So we had to pay $3,000, which is still a lot of money. For 1999, 2000, it's a ton of money back then. Um, and I believe it was a better way to do America. It taught me not to demonize ignorance. They knew nothing, right? They'd never seen an Indian drama student ever before in their life.
Yeah, if you
Yeah,
imagine Bible Belt, this is the buckle of the Bible Belt.
right. So, but they were so unaware that it was innocent. I think ignorance is racism without malice. That's what ignorance is at its most innocent. And so, the I really got to, most of America, every time we see another country on Twitter or on it's on fire. Every country is on fire all the time. When you look at it through the lens of a social media, this thing. Man, most of America wants to watch The Bachelor and pay their bills and go to bed. Like most of India wants to watch Big Boss and pay their bills and go to bed. And they're decent, hardworking people. I experienced that. Like we also paint Americans as quite lazy. Go to Midwest, and these people work very, very, very hard. You know, so it taught me a lot being in smaller America.
It gave you a window into American ignorance, you're saying.
I think it gave me an empathy for American ignorance, not a window into it. You know,
But it helps you understand where we are today, right?
I think it does, but I do think the old adage of Americans not knowing so much about the world doesn't apply anymore. They're largely more globally aware than they were before. Even the average American, you know, the New York. If you look at just what just happened, Zoran Mamdani won an election. You know what I mean? And the average New Yorker has always been sort of worldly aware, but I think the average American is far more worldly aware as well than they used to be. Certainly, in 1999, they'd ask you if your family had an elephant and shit like that. You know what I mean? So, and you
What
could
did
mess
you
with them a little
say?
bit. I mess with Abhi. I have 10. So,
Yeah, I used to get asked, how do you know such good English? Like to
did you study in America as well?
in the Midwest. That's why I could
Where,
laugh.
where'd you go?
St. Louis, Missouri.
Nah, there you go. So then you understand perfectly well.
Completely. You write about college life, and quite delightfully, you went on from here, and you were writing essays uh, into philosophy and all kinds of things. And you say, in Indian colleges, you would never be allowed to, go off script like this and write about anything. And it's just so beautiful, that kind of autonomy and for expansion that American life and American college system gives you, right?
I think they have the best. Their liberal arts system is a very strong. I think that system is the best undergraduate system where you get to really imbibe different things. So yeah, I went to study economics, but then I got to take philosophy and jazz history and science fiction and public speaking and all of these things. I would never have been able to do that, and I'd done 2 years in Venki, South Campus, and I strongly wanted to study political science. But that political science exam in Venki was there is an answer, and you have to memorize it. But in no way do you have to theorize or think about that answer. You just have to hit the answer. So for me, that was always tough.
So that's an interesting thing you just said. How important is it to belong to a place where you are not handed the answer, but where you're allowed to innovate, improvise answers? And how important is that for you right now in your
I,
life?
think, I mean, for me, it's everything. I'm doing 5 things right now. This week, I'm doing 5 things, and all of them are firsts. You know, I I just did an off Broadway run in New York at the Lincoln Center Theater. I'm the first guy from India to do that. But it's not it's kind of a solo show, so it's not really just stand up. It's got more narrative. It's got an arc. It's got more pathos. It's got more of my life in it. So I'm working with a Broadway director who is, a 5-time Tony nominee. So I don't know how to do any of this stuff. I'm learning. You know, the day one they were like, "Huh, the show's funny," but that's not enough. And for me, as a comic, funny has just been the goal. That's enough. When it's funny, you go. We began at funny and tried to take it somewhere else. So I did, you know, 16 nights at the Lincoln Center, like a proper New York run. And, God was kind, we sold out, but I'd never done anything like this before. Um, I've written a book. I have no idea if it's any good or not. I've never written a damn book before, so it's a first for me. I co-directed a movie that I just starred in, which Amir produced. I've never done that before. That's also a first. Sounds of India, which plays Ahmedabad, is the show's like a Coldplay concert. I've never married technology and immersive comedy before, but I play you 80 sounds from the second you wake up in the morning to the second you go to bed in the morning. And I do stand up about all the sounds you will hear in India from the minute your eyes open to the moment your eyes shut. And I take you across the country to every state in India. So it's technology meets comedy. I've never done that before. So I feel like DJ sometimes, up there, etc. I've never done any of this, so I have no answers at this moment in my career. And it would be very easy to do what I know and to do the tours that I know and to fall back on everything I know and that I'm good at. But I'm not in that zone at all.
It helps to not have answers and have more questions, because then the misfit in you kind of succeeds.
I think so. I love a good underestimation. I love being underestimated. So I like yeah. There's nothing quite as exciting as the bottom of a ladder to me.
You write about Bombay, Mumbai, like you like a Wordsworth. You write about it, and you write about the possibilities that it opens up,
Hmm.
and how the city can embrace you, can be brutal, and
Yeah.
much like America, right? So would you say that the possibilities kind of expanded, and Mumbai is a lot like succeeding in America, succeeding in Mumbai, or is there a difference?
No, no, no. There's difference. Yeah. They're completely different things. Completely, completely different things. Uh, and okay, I want to clarify. I don't quantify fame as success. So that's one. But in my profession, they kind of go hand in hand with each other. So let's put that on the table. The American artist journey, I think success is a lot of I want uh, what you want, what you have. You know what I mean? I like this rapper. I want his life. I want his car. I want his house. I want his this thing. I like this rock star. I want her fit. I want her blah 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 blah. Mumbai is. I'm just happy for you, man. You know what I mean? Like there's a big difference. You know, when people gather outside Mannat, they're not saying I want what you have. They're just saying I'm happy for you and I'm here for you. You know, that's the key difference. Uh, I think Americans try and imbibe a chunk of each other's lifestyle, and in Mumbai, they just kind of push you on your journey
Oh,
uh,
wonderful.
a little bit.
That's just wonderfully put. You mentioned Mannat. I'm one of the biggest fans of Shah Rukh Khan. I like to
Hmm.
think I am the biggest fan. Tell me,
Hmm.
you worked with him. Tell me
Yeah.
something about working with Shah Rukh Khan that the world doesn't know yet.
Um. I don't think I could. I worked with him, for 3 nights, and but there is a reason that every Shah Rukh Khan story is the same Shah Rukh Khan story, which is talking about generosity, hospitality, focus, making you feel like you are the only person in the room when he talks to you, really addressing you with respect. But for me, I mean, I got so lucky in that in my first 2 years in Bombay, I got to be 3 years. I got to be in a room with Shah Rukh Khan and Amir Khan. You know, so you really got to see what the top of the top of the top, the level they work at, how long they work, how they treat people, how they are always feeding people. You know, junior writer to old friend, Khana is brought out for everybody. These things to learn them very early is very valuable. Like I feel like a lot of my I'm relentlessly hardworking, and a lot of that comes from being in rooms like this. Being on a newsroom, on a news floor, really taught me hard work. Like really, really, really taught me hard work. Anytime a comedian is like, man, I'm in the club until like 1 o'clock in the morning and all of that stuff, I'm like, bro, like you should have seen that CNBC news floor, you know. So I just got very lucky because the scene didn't exist. I had to exist in other people's environments, and that was imprinted on me quite heavily.
You mentioned that you're having this conversation, brief conversation with a movie star and movie actress, and she tells you, "Don't wave at the fans. Holds
Yeah,
keeps the mystique alive. You shouldn't be so
yeah,
accessible." So, do you never wave? What is your? I mean, you describe yourself as an awkward person.
I
How do
am.
you, how do you engage with fans? Give me an anecdote, maybe something, an encounter with a fan that you will always remember.
But I go against that, and I think I think you wave back, and I think you wave back chest out, palms open. and I think you really embrace their love. With me, I don't have fans. I have an audience. It's a big difference. Big difference. Fans are like, मेरे को selfie चाहिए. I love you. Audience is like, I like that thing. Uh, ये पार्ट ना मेरे को बहुत अच्छा लगा. वो पार्ट मेरे को अच्छा नहीं लगा. You know what I mean? तेरा पिछला वाला अच्छा था. Like there's a discussion there. It's very discerning, and I think that goes for Hindi and English stand-up comedy audiences. They're very discerning with lots of options. So if I meet you at an airport, it's usually like the it's a conversation, and 99% of people that I meet, the words they use are keep going and keep doing what you're doing. It's literally, I don't know why. I don't know who has circulated this phrase amongst people, etc., etc. But 99% people are just like, "Yeah, man, keep going." Um, and that's largely what I get.
Has anyone in person said you're anti-India?
No, I think those are social media things. Yeah,
Nobody has said.
social media is social media is the place where we say all the things that we. Mike Tyson said that, right? Social media is where you say all the things you would get punched for in real life or something like that. Is the Tyson quote? People are very gracious and good mannered in real life. You know,
Tell me what's the difference between you got cancelled twice, but tell me what's the difference between the right-wing audience that cancels you because of your True India joke and the left-wing progressives who cancel you because you used words about you cracked a joke about pronouns. Both are canceling you. Both are saying no, you cannot cross this line. What is the difference?
I I push back against the word canceling, right? But power sends you into process, and those are two very different things. So I'm okay to take feedback from a left wing or a right wing audience in equal measure. Um, when you punish an artist with process, that's not cancel culture. That's something beyond that. You know. Um, so I'm willing to evolve from feedback from both of those sides of audiences if I agree with it, if I ideologically agree with it, and if I don't, I'm also willing to engage and say I don't ideologically agree with it either. But now, if I have to do 5 years of paperwork and I have to hire 6 lawyers and I have to do all of that stuff, with due respect, that's not cancel culture. You know, that's process. That's far more.
So, do you believe the worst time for satirists is also the best time for satire?
I believe that comedy is best when it is punk rock, and I think comedy is best when it is counterculture and when it is counter establishment. And I think if you look at American comedy right now, it's kind of lacking an identity, right? And it's because it's become pop. It's no longer counterculture. It's presidential candidates on both sides are sitting down with comics. It's the mainstream, and so there's not much to say right now. You know, in India, it's still punk rock. It's very exciting in
And
that sense.
and when you read newspapers or when you read news about other comics being pushed back or being criticized or being, I know you don't like the word cancel, but people
Mm-hmm.
saying this so and so is anti-national, so and so is this, and shutting down comedy shows. As a senior stand-up comedian, do you think you should speak for the industry sometimes?
I think every single comic that needs help, we're in touch with each other. There is a network of support for a comic that is proudly so private. Do you know what I mean? There is a sense of community amongst us, and should a comic ever need help, I think you will find that the top 5 or 6 comics in this country, we are coming through for them. But at some level, and I say this with all due respect to the media who can sometimes worsen the situation, for an artist in that eye of the storm, we'd love that support to continue to be none of your business. Do you know what I mean? And to be amongst us. The Every time I see an article, you would ask, I always wish the article focused a little bit on the joke. Do you know what I mean? The what I've always pushed back against is, look, as as long as you will Google my name, a controversy will show up. I have to live with that for the rest of my life. And many comedians do. But I'd love for the article about the controversy to focus on the joke too, and the craft of it all, and the art of it all. Rather than वो यहाँ से भागा वहां गया उसको ये करना पड़ा etc etc etc. I'd love for more articles to just be like, hey, the joke was good, yeah. You know what I mean? Or the joke was, about this, and his entire routine that he did, this 1 hour show, was about that. And here's what's nice about that, and here's the controversy. I think for future artists in controversy, you would do them a great service by doing that. If I can put something out there, and Indian media is less guilty of that than Western media. A lot of times when we come to the West, we get painted as, they write the article that makes Western readers feel better about themselves. To say, "Oh, look how bad they have it over here," etc., etc. And I'm like, well, what about the jokes? Because I think the jokes are pretty good.
I used to write for the Washington Post for many, many years. I used to write
Yeah.
about India, so I see what you're saying. Tell me something. Tell me about the movie that you're working on.
Oh, well, it's called Happy Patel Khatarnak Jasoos. And it's a wonderful bumbling spy comedy. And I'd written a story treatment for it many, many years ago. And then I took it around a little bit, and everybody's like, per spy? Kaise? Kaun se this thing mein? And because none of this Tiger, Pathan, none of this had happened yet when I wrote it first. And then I kind of had to wait for all of these things to happen. And I think about 3 years ago, I made a wish list of 5 people, just saying I'd love to be working with them. And Amir was one of the 5 people that I called and said, "So I have a film." He said, "Come narrate it." And 6 narrations later, we were greenlit. But I play Happy Patel. Kavi Shastri and me, who met as background on Love Ajkal, we co-directed it together. Amir produced it, and it's got a bunch of fun people in it. So it's coming out soon.
When do we get to see it?
We're cutting the trailer right now, so we're around the corner. We'll have a date pretty soon, I think. But it's been, like I said, a weird week because I'm literally going Broadway. Then it's just a very surreal week. I was telling my wife, I spoke to her right before I spoke to you. I'm like, I think my brain is, because I went from 16 nights on Broadway to Harvard and Yale as an author. Then I go to Ahmedabad and do 3 Sounds of India shows. Then I go to Amir Khan Productions and I spend 2 days editing and making music for trailer. And then it's my first day on Call Me Bay season 2. So this 10-day chunk is requiring adjustment in my head, like a Rubik's Cube in my head.
You're an Excel sheet right now, walking, talking Excel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Veer. This was a
I
good
appreciate you.
conversation, a book for misfits, and looking forward to more.
All right. Thank you so much. Cheers. Take care. Bye.